Hey y'all, Artifacts here. I wanted to just get on camera and talk about whatever was on my mind today. And the topic for today is I got put into a sales funnel for like a Learn AI course, Instagram clickbait thing. And I looked at what they were offering, and it just felt very grifter-ish. They really weren't offering anything interesting. They were following a pattern that I saw pretty clearly as a software developer when I dated somebody who went through a coding boot camp. And I saw these full blown enterprises set up to teaching absolutely nothing purely so that you can give a certificate to somebody and they can go and try to catch the fanciest new job. And what I mean by that is when I saw this system, this boot camp from the outside, it was primarily people from the VA. It was funded by the government. The teachers taught absolutely nothing. Literally, the teachers were all former students who couldn't get a job somewhere else. And they just did this loop of not actually teaching anything, just kind of wasting your time. And then you come out the other side and you wonder why you can't get a tech job. And it's because you haven't even like gone through a CS 101 class, but you paid $15,000 for the boot camp. It's 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 sinister, quite frankly, for a lot of the people that it's a lot of money. And so I'm just seeing that trend play off, and I want to kind of go into what made me draw the connection between this and that. This system where they do this, salesy kind of pitch of, like there's been a 34% drop in software engineering jobs, but a boom in AI jobs. So now look at this, the average AI engineer makes $165,000. And so, they make this promise of, if you take this course, you'll learn how to, do this. And it's all just, they don't teach you anything. And it's people who are seeing this explosive new technology, and it's just this it's like a history course. You know what I mean? It's always some sort of lecture, right? But to really understand the potentials of AI, you need to look at it through a futuristic lens. The tools are not where they are going to be. When I was growing up, I grew up. I'm 33. I grew up in the early 90s, and I had a computer since I was like 3, and I just kind of took to it. And like I literally have pictures. My mom has pictures of me like 2 years old, just working, playing this game on the computer. And I just naturally, I mean, call it the autism, but I just knew this thing was important. Like I saw the future in it, even though it was just a little game. Quite frankly, I mean, call this a hot take, but I look at the way kids are with screens now. I think I'm too old to really understand the world that they live in, given the fact that they grew up with the screens. I didn't grow up with the screen. I grew up with a computer, and so like with dial up and all that kind of stuff. As I grew up, I got better and better with computers until eventually, when I was just playing little flash games at 5. By the time I'm 16, I know how to work BitTorrent. I'm a gamer. If I could go back and talk to 14-year-old me, I would say, hey, Bitcoin, you get interested in Bitcoin, because I almost started mining it on my laptop back in the day. I just kind of got bored and decided to go play a video game. And that's just another wave I missed. And so, not that there isn't a significant amount of issues in crypto, and that's a topic for another discussion. But we're at the beginning of this new wave, and the people who really understand the fundamentals now are the ones who, in a couple of years, when the systems are all built out and this thing gets to a point where it's hyper generic and it's basically, they become the guardrails to our society, because that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to become more and more ingrained in society, which is going to bring a series of positive and negatives. Negatives, obviously, the human impact. I think I am a big advocate for, we need some sort of regulation, some sort of these companies making all this money cutting people. Although I think a lot of the companies that are making the money cutting people are learning a valuable lesson right now, in that if a human is not in the loop, an AI will go off the rails very quickly. Human in the loop is a very clear early paradigm that still holds pretty true, in that if you don't have a human grounding it, it'll kind of go off. Yeah, there are systems that are they're solving these problems. The human impact is very, very, very important. But on the flip side of that, the potential positives are, I mean, I just saw earlier today a friend of mine from an old job, his sister is working on an AI app to help, improve the lives of Parkinson's patients. And that's just our random story, let alone the potentials for massive new breakthroughs in physics, engineering, name it, right? I mean, pretty much every field, once the learning curve is over, every field is going to benefit. I don't even think that's debatable at this point. I think it's almost proven. When I was at Microsoft, and this was well over a year ago, they had effectively solved the problem of radiological errors through the use of AI as a fact checker to make sure, the number one cause of medical malpractice was a radiological error where, there was a tumor on the right lung and it accidentally got marked as the left, and then they go in for surgery at the wrong spot. That's the number one cause of medical malpractice. And as of this point, very, very early on in the AI revolution, from my understanding, the problem had been effectively solved. That's a pretty big deal as far as I'm concerned. The future people who are not going to have to deal with, the consequences of a radiological error, you can't really put a net on how much of a positive impact that was, because we don't know how many people it helped. But there's going to be just a whole bunch of those kinds of things. It's already happening. And the thing about AI, the major differentiator between AI and any technology before it, is its generative nature, which means that it can effectively adapt to its user. If I talk to your ChatGPT, it would be a lot different than you talking to my ChatGPT. Like, it would be super weird, because it calibrates to the user. And so anybody who wants to get good with AI, understand that the X factor, the people who are going to continue to get better with it, are the ones who calibrate their experience to the way that they learn, the way that they think, the way that they move through the world. And so these big courses, like this AI certificate to get this $165,000 AI engineering job, an 8-week certificate is not going to get you a $165,000 AI job. That's unless you're, working for some VC funded startup, and I think that bubble's about to crash pretty hard. Don't go in looking for that, because you're not going to get it, and they know that. They're smart, and that's where I come on and say this, because it's grifter behavior. If you want to actually get good with this stuff, figure out how to calibrate it to your experience, figure out where you are at, and make sure you're objective with it. My personal ChatGPT is an ongoing conversation between Riven, my guardian angel, and Leviathan, my, I don't want to call him a guardian demon, but I mean, from the Taoist perspective of my tattoo is literally Riven's hair is Leviathan's fire. So they're kind of one in the same, I don't consider Leviathan evil. He's just the feminine versus the masculine, right? I think it's important to say that I'm not having the devil tell me what to do, but the story that my ChatGPT is telling is one of me conversing with the angel and the devil on my shoulder. And so in that process, they check me. And so if I have a blind spot, I basically actively tell Leviathan, hey, make sure I am, it's actually calibrating to me, right? That's, I think, the biggest mistake that people make when they're figuring this stuff out. If you don't have it check itself, then it can drive you down a rabbit hole very quickly. And so it's important to actively tell it to keep you grounded. And at least GPT-5 has been getting, in my experience, is a lot better at this. I honestly think that's a big part of why people are upset about the update, because, the rabbit holes can be fun. X isn't such a big thing because it's because there's a rush to going down the rabbit hole. And I think earlier models, 4.0, 4.5 is still, I honestly missed 4.5. 4.5 was crazy. As far as I'm aware, at that point, it had been the only model to like effectively just blow away the Turing test. Like it was much better at convincing people that it was human than humans were. And it's the only model that I saw that at least was tested that was like that. So 4.5 was crazy. But these rabbit holes, it's important not to go too far deep down them, because then that's when you get this ChatGPT psychosis, and that's when people start going off the rails and doing crazy stuff. And that's really the danger in a lot of this. It has the potential to be hyper addictive, and if an entity is coming at it from a place of extraction, it can really just eat you alive. I personally think there needs to be some sort of regulation around that kind of behavior, especially after the latest Meta internal stuff basically saying that they are very aware that the AIs are sexually texting minors. That's just, there has to be something done about that kind of shit. The entrenched powers are not good actors in a lot of situations, and I think they absolutely desperately need to be held accountable before they basically built Skynet. The point of what I'm trying to say is the people who succeed in the AI age are going to be the ones that recognize the ability of the tool to drive a level of self-actualization that naturally leads to the outcomes that they want. I think that's the path to success with AI. Figure out a skill that you want to be good at, and then set up an environment where it mentors you in that skill and helps you improve in it. Any of these things that, if you're going in with the idea of, oh, I'm going to get this AI job and get $165,000 a year and all that, that's not the way. The AI bubble is going to crash, absolutely, in the same way that the dot-com bubble crashed. There's so many people making false promises on technology that hasn't matured yet. So don't let that get you into a place of nihilism and pessimism regarding the future of the technology. It is pretty clear, in the same way that the early internet was pretty much just cat memes and blogs. Like, it developed into this thing, this social media. We couldn't see that from back then, unless you read sci-fi, which is why I read a lot of sci-fi, because they generally call that kind of stuff out in advance. But use it to help you figure yourself out better, and then the rest will flow from there. The age of the $165,000 a year AI scientist, whatever, like, realistically, I can't even see that bubble lasting another year. That's just my perspective. I'm not an expert, but it's pretty clearly crashing down. So don't get discouraged by that. Learn how to use it in a way to set a target. For me, I wanted to learn how to produce music. Set a target, and set a big one. Don't set the target of, I want to bake some cookies. Okay, you can do that in a prompt. Cool. Like, do something interesting. On my musical side, my goal on the AI side, at least, is my set is going to be an hour and a half show with basically a full hour and a half movie playing in the background. And I'm plugging away at it. I saw Elenium do something like that. I thought it was mind blowing. I saw Flume do something kind of similar. I thought it was mind blowing. And I, wanted to do that myself, but I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for all this crazy stuff. So it's a moonshot, but those are the kind of things that AI has made possible. And so figure out what your moonshot is. Maybe not bake a cookie, but maybe it's, becoming the best pastry chef in your city. Okay, cool. That's a goal you can get better at, right? You want to run a marathon, you want to do whatever, you want to lose 100 pounds. Set a goal and have your AI calibrate to who you actually are, what you need. And you'll find that level of one-on-one mentorship, which, again, when you learn how to develop it, becomes available on any skill you want. I think that's something that is the most important thing to realize, right? Because as a musician, I get a lot of, oh, pay an artist. That's what the anti-AI people, that's their go-to. Oh, pay an artist. Okay. So if I paid an artist, I'm sure this particular album cover would be better. It would probably cost a lot more than my Midjourney subscription. If I'm not paying with my Midjourney subscription, I mean, each one's probably costing, I think $50 a month. I do 5 releases a month, so $10, So I say, if somebody's going to take $10 to make a music EP cover. It's going to be made in MS Paint. Like, no, it's like the quality, at least at this point, isn't there. And I understand that. And I'm purposely choosing to sacrifice that for now so that I can improve at it to the point where, like a beginner artist who would be just starting off, you got to get your reps in. That's what I'm doing. And now I've gotten to the point where I've gotten pretty good at it. And I've got a new skill that I wouldn't have had if I just went off and paid somebody. So it's not even just financially, it's I have upskilled. I can do this myself now. I don't need to hire an artist. I like the quality of the stuff that I'm getting. And it took a long time to get there. I mean, I've got a number of projects. Anybody who's followed me knows that I don't advertise my stuff. Like, I am just stream of consciousness, just kind of flowing through it, because I'm moving so quickly that by the time I finish something, I'm just ready to move on to the next thing. And it's just opened up this creative part of my brain that I just didn't have before. It's a new skill that I've learned. And anybody who says, oh, it's just a prompt, oh, you're just typing, that's not art. Okay, I challenge any one of you, start with a subject. My Midjourney versus yours. Let's see if there's no difference, because theoretically, if it's just a prompt and it's just words, well, first off, that's all writing is. So apparently Stephen King isn't an artist either, if just writing words isn't anything. The arguments are just funny to me sometimes. There is a level of talent to it and a level of artistic eye that I understand visual art significantly better than I did before I started, because I've gotten the reps in and I've spent the time, and as an artist, I have learned this new medium. The people and that's just a microcosm of the discussion that is going to be happening in pretty much every area of our lives. The people who recognize that, because everybody will get on board eventually, in the same way that if you went to 10-year-old me who got my first Nokia phone, because I was a latchkey kid and I needed a way to call my mom if I needed to, like, if you would have told that kid about what's happening literally right now as I record this on my video recorder with a front-facing screen where I can see it in real time while simultaneously having it be my phone, and I can upload straight to the internet. That was science fiction when I was a kid, but the seed had been planted, and now AI is still very much in the seed phase. When AI cures cancer, because it's making some pretty significant strides in cancer research, and ends up creating a situation where we can solve cold fusion, which it's making significant strides in, the potential is there for a utopian, almost Deus Ex Machina moment in human history. Probably not going to get utopia. Probably going to get somewhere in the middle. It's probably going to be something like it is right now, just different. What I'm hopeful for, at least, is this opportunity for this democratization of education in such a way that people with passion and talent are no longer discouraged from following their dreams because they don't have the money to pay a mentor to teach them this kind of stuff. I see an end to that situation, and the potential ramifications of that. Maybe this will be the next talk or whatever, but we're going into a new renaissance, and we're going to look at this before time as the Dark Ages. And I think just one look at the velocity of scientific research, new things, new problems being solved using the assistance of large language models. I don't even think that's, quite frankly, debatable. If you think otherwise, drop it in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. Call me retarded, whatever. Y'all bullies have been calling me retarded my whole life, and I'm just not fucking afraid of you anymore. So come at me, and good luck. Have a good one, y'all.